Just popping in here real quick to remind you that America is not and has never been a Christian nation. First things first, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution aren't the same thing. The Declaration of Independence is a war proclamation and isn't binding, while the Constitution is the supreme law document of the United States. And of course, the Declaration of Independence set forward certain ideals that the Founding Fathers wanted included in their new country, but none of those were legally enforceable until those rights were enumerated in the Constitution or the Bill of Rights.
So I always love how these, conservative studs or whoever it is, are always, say stuff like, this is a Christian nation. You don't learn your history and go back and read the founding documents. As if you spend so much of your time just learning so much about the history of the world in this country. Because if you did, even if you weren't so adept at, the United States Constitution or anything like that, you would see that theocracies don't work for good reasons. You would see that they really just persecute people. And you would see, again, as this young lady pointed out, that the Declaration of Independence is not a bounding document. So your whole premise is incorrect, on top of the fact that how are you going to enforce this being a Christian nation? That's the biggest problem.
That's why it's so important that the Constitution intentionally never mentions God, and that's why Article 6 explicitly states that we can't have a religious requirement to run for public office. This is also why the Bill of Rights literally opens with, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. This is called the Establishment Clause, and it not only protects your right to practice any religion you want, but it also protects all U.S. citizens from having religion imposed upon them.
And then, of course, she pulls out the Constitution and immediately proves my man wrong. But again, that's the biggest danger of these kinds of people is they think they know, but they don't know. And you don't know what you don't know. But again, what are they always talking about? They're always talking about, the Muslims. They're always talking about Islam and how they're this horrible religion that, basically kills people, executes people over X, Y, and Z. They're always talking about Sharia law. Meanwhile, we have Lauren Boebert, however you truly pronounce it. We have her saying that she's, tired of this separation of church and state crap. We have people literally promoting Christian nationalism, literally promoting fascism within this country. And that's the direction that the Republican Party's headed in. They're doing everything that they can to, win their last stand, basically it just being the great white hope.
In fact, the first 4 presidents of the United States all spoke out against infusing religion into politics. George Washington said, quote, path of true piety is so plain as to require but little political direction. In 1797, in the Treaty of Tripoli, John Adams wrote, as the government of the United States is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion. In 1802, Thomas Jefferson declared that when America adopted the Establishment Clause, they built a, quote, wall of separation between the church and state. And James Madison said, religion and government will both exist in greater purity the less they are mixed together. And just to get ahead of the argument saying that, but God is on our money and God is in the Pledge of Allegiance, under God wasn't added to the Pledge of Allegiance until 1954, and In God We Trust didn't appear on any of our currency until 1955.
And then again, the most important thing is, while a lot of people on the right try to worship and praise the founding fathers like their wisdom and their, grace was just so timeless, these were land thieves. These were slave owners. These were people who committed genocide. These were people who did absolutely horrible things. And it's not a matter of, oh, well, those were just the times. That's not an excuse. That's an easy cop-out. That's just like drug kingpins who say, well, if it wasn't me, it would have been somebody else. True, but that doesn't excuse what you yourself have done. So how are these Christian theocracies actually going to push this forward, huh? Now, what are they going to do? Are they going to check all of our cell phone data to make sure that we're talking about Jesus? Are they going to make sure we're going to church? What are they going to do to people who have other religions? That's, again, the biggest problem with this. So I just thought this was a funny look at how these right-wingers always seem to think this is a Christian nation, even though it's not.